my, oh my, oh my. Oops, what in the hell are we doing here? Well, I guess we're just figuring this out. This is my first time YouTubing, of course, so I hope that you guys can bear with me.
Yeah, I mean, we're just newbies here. I mean, daggone if we don't have that excuse. Look, life happens and it's a Monday.
It is. I mean, this weekend was crazy. I mean, the amount of insane stuff going on, you just have no idea. Like,
I this
there was
today, I've legitimately watched a trial in which an expert psychiatrist will maybe talk about the distinct possibility of the entity formerly known as possibly the potential postpartum depression, idea of it being included into the DSM.
oh,
And then the next witness comes in, and the first witness has already looked like a phallus, um, a grinning one. The next one looks like Greg Gutfeld and the Keebler Elves had a love child, and he decided to take up psychiatry instead of, baking, which I was pissed off because then I was hungry for a double stuffed, fudge cookie, and I was still stuck listening to him.
uh,
So today has been a Monday.
oh, oh, this is gonna be torture then for you.
Oh, no. Honestly, anything that is not the Lindsay Clancy case, because apparently putting out a very kind, just supportive message to check in on moms that are struggling around you has led people to believe I don't know what, that I am okay with all sorts of random things and my character is terrible, which okay, but legitimately I put out a positive message. So I've basically given up on the internet for today. So Jeffrey Dahmer seems like a good way to unwind, which probably sounds really bad.
Well, if you're and the thing, and we talked about this before, like, I don't wanna go through every single one of these doctors that has an opinion, and there's so many of them. I mean, it's just like, and they ramble on and on and on. You're just like, "Is this supposed to convince a jury?" Like,
Y Well, and
that's
I
one
think
of the things that really, I think, really made me a little nutty with it because, outside of, watching this, I don't wanna make people be succumb to the absolute doldrum of these, especially Dr.
well,
Where he's
yeah,
just like,
what I think we're noticing, and I think Dahmer was at the start of this sort of cottage industry of expertologist. Because and it does kind of relate to what's currently going on because right now we have basically allegations that the Commonwealth has put up 2 experts that vaguely study psychiatry, but don't have any specialization in what this trial is germane to. They were hired by a expert farming kind of headhunter group, Dietz and Associates. Now, Dietz has kind of made a cottage industry of selling his expertise and being entertaining while doing it. There That's the other part of this expert. Yes, you want an expert, but you also want an expert that can translate very complex things into layman terminology that doesn't bore the jury, but also doesn't condescend to the jury, and that's a very fine line. There's not many people that do that. So,
but
I
also you want an expert that's actually an expert. Does
that's
that
true
make
too.
sense? Because,
Yes.
like, I mean, and I go back to, with what's going on with Hales. Like, there's this handwriting expert that the antis have hired, okay? Now, this expert's name is Kurt Baggett. Okay, now Kurt Baggett was on CNN and Fox, and he's been on all these things. Now, back, I'm trying to remember what year it was. He made this proclamation. This guy came forward and said, "Hey, I'm the one that deleted JonBenet Ramsey." is what their
Oh,
proclamation was.
yes.
Now, Kurt Baggett was just like, "I'm 99.9% sure this because of this note that he wrote whenever he was, in school or some crap like that, that he's absolutely the correct one that left this note, and it's him, and we should believe him." And then whenever it came down to it, they're just like, "Yeah, this isn't the guy because he couldn't have been there at this time. He was elsewhere. We have proof that he was elsewhere. This is not the right person." But
Yeah,
yet
and
he
that's
was
the
so sure
problem.
of it.
It is the confirmation, and so many of these sciences are so based on you being a good observer and a honest observer, an objective observer, and I do think sometimes these experts huff their own farts, to put a
Well
layman's term on it, and
and this handwriting expert isn't even certified by ACE, which is a handwriting expert analysis group that I think the FBI had sort of put together, and these people basically have very specific courses they have to go through. He basically created his own school, or I should say his dad created the school, and that's what he graduated from, his own school.
that's like when, a kid again, I always go back to those holiday letters, but you can tell when the kid's, like, gone to dental school in Guam.
I you know what? I think I might just pull this up because I think this is important whenever we're talking about experts. Er
If you pull up the expert, I'm gonna laugh, but I also wanna take a drink, so
no, that's fine. You take a drink. Location, because this is sort of pretty it's pretty important whenever you see this kind of stuff. Um, Let me see. We got that one there that I wanted you to sort of, because a lot of people hadn't really seen a lot of this, and they're talking about whenever they're talking about this guy, and it was what, 2024? Yeah, 2024. I pulled up this information, and I was able to find it in less than 10 minutes. Okay, of this whole guy's, BS. So think about this. It's 2026 now, and almost 2 years ago, I pulled up this information, and these people are coming back about, how great this guy is. And let me just stop that screen right there and present this shoot to you, because it's really strange to me that people wanna, whenever people say, experts. What exactly is an expert? Okay. If you read this right here, this is Kurt Baggett, and the reason it's redacted is because of his address. I don't want to dox the guy. Completed over 6,000 cases, examined documents, testified in all these different countries, plus DC.
yeah, but
Um,
completed doesn't mean that his observations were even useful.
Well, and that's the thing. He was a document examiner for CSI. He was on ABC, CNN, CBS, Good Morning Texas, was a consultant forensic. He held the position as Dean of School of Forensic Documentation Examination Handwriting University, his own school. Um, in addition to lecturing. And I mean, you start reading all of this, and all of this looks really good. His education in handwriting, Dr. Ray Walker, blah, 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 and you're sitting there
Yeah, but
going down through all of
it
this.
looks good, but not really because, what accreditation does the University of Handwriting have? I mean, to me, I
No,
would rather
it's
say
his own.
DeVry. Well,
It's
I
his
know,
own.
but what are they again, where is the research that handwriting we can do handwriting matches, but is he claiming that he has insight into people's personality because of their handwriting, or is this more a one-for-one document match?
Well, and this is the thing that, like I said, you look through all of this, and this is like him showing up to symposiums, past memberships. Now, these are all paid memberships. It's sort of like
Yeah, that's
it
what
it
this
it
doesn't
yeah, it's not like you are any anything other than these are people that you've contributed money to. You've donated money to them to
yeah,
say,
the only time an expert's memberships, or anything I would note as a jurist is or a juror is more if they're a president, if they have been invited to speak by said group. If they're not only a member, but a, t hair club for men, "I'm not only a member, I'm a president," you
Yes,
know?
this is the handwriting expert from What the Hell's Case, but it ties into what we're talking about as far as experts go. Now, you have to understand this is a completely different case. This is one right here. I believe this is in Ohio. I've got another one in Tennessee. This one is probably the most interesting one right here. So think about this Eastern District Court of Tennessee, Chattanooga, which is not too far from me. Mary Revels, aka Crazy Mary, United States of America. Okay. So Mary Revel's court was presented with this novel issue, and it says the issue at the standard of court should be used accepted qualifications of expert witness in sentencing hearing when federal rules of evidence do not apply, although the court has assumed the subject matter of the witness testimony would be contested. Court not anticipated the witness's qualifications as expert would be an issue or his ability to testify. Okay. After giving careful consideration, the court will exercise its discretion to exclude the testimony of Mr. Backett on the grounds that he is not qualified to testify as an opinion witness in the areas of document examination, handwriting analysis. The court will also deny defendants a motion for the court to consider opinion testimony or of any additional document examiner. Although the court will not continue sentencing for a defendant to obtain a new document examiner, they'll grant a request to reschedule the hearing. Now you're like, well, what does that do? The problem was he then it basically is telling you what all this happened,
Yeah.
all of this stuff that happened to this.
Yes.
She basically said some of her all of her electronic signatures used to determine her drug quality amount were forged, and the drug quantity amount was therefore inaccurate. The hearing, he the defendant attempted to
Wait
tender
a minute,
Mr.
pause. Shizzy,
Mhm.
I'm not a geniusologist or anything, but how do you forge an electronic signature? I mean, what part of handwriting isn't that more of a digital forensic expert, not a handwriting expert? I'm not trying to be a moron here, but
No, that's the because certain things will have, like, the signature pad on it.
oh, okay, alright.
So
Fair point.
yeah, something like that. So what they did is tried to offer him as an opinion witness in the areas of document examination, although it was not specified, the court anticipated that the witness would be offered as an expert in the speciality of examination of electronic signatures or digital signatures created by computer technology.
Oh,
And those are commonly used in retail establishments, one of those
yeah,
little sign
yeah.
pads. The system that maintains and stores the signature in Tennessee is called Meth Check. Could you imagine something called Meth Check? I mean,
Reality is sometimes just too funny.
I don't make these up. Now they gave the parties the opportunity to conduct their voir dire, examining Baggett's qualifications. Baggett was questioned by both parties about his education, training, and experience. The government also questioned him about his criminal history and other matters that went towards his credibility. At the end of the second day of questioning, the government formally objected to Mr. Baggett as an opinion witness on the grounds he was not properly qualified and lacked sufficient credibility. Now they created some unexpected, unforeseen problem for the court. They had
It's
anticipated there were questions concerning this.
deficiencies.
Mr. Baggett's
Ouch.
deficiencies were so great, however, the court was not comfortable with this approach.
Oh, ow. Oh, does he oh, someone called the ambulance.
Oh, yeah.
Ouch.
The court temporarily adjourned the hearing and ordered the parties to submit briefs discussing the proper standard the court should apply at sentencing, determining whether he should be allowed to testify as an opinion witness. They and basically they said, "Well, no, no, no." And it also says, that the court recommends that the court not grant defendant a reduction or offense, blah, blah, blah. This is just
Yeah.
basically what it is. Mr. Baggett as an opinion witnesses, it's applicable law. They can put these people in there, basically is what it's saying. In the instant matter, defendant has tendered him as an opinion witness to support of her objection to the drug quantity. but the government moves to exclude such a testimony because a witness lacks sufficient qualifications and credibility to be reliable. Let me go down from
Ouch.
here. And what it was is it says witness qualify, basically what qualifies them as a witness. And and the reason I'm scrolling through this is because this is just basically telling you what the law is, and
Yeah.
we've got to get down to where he's at. Now, here the court's primary concern is whether Mr. Baggett is sufficiently qualified to testify during this. They questioned him over the course of 2 days regarding his knowledge, experience, education, and training. Court also had an opportunity to review his curriculum vitae. I think that's
Yeah.
pronounced right. Mr. Baggett received a BA and MED at McNeese State University, which is located in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and performed some postgraduate work at the University of Houston. The averse, he also received education and training in the U.S. Military Police Officer School. He participated in 2-year apprenticeship with Mr. Ray Walker, a handwriting expert and document examiner. He also taught and for some period of time served as dean of school of the forensic document examination at Handwriting University, which is run by his son. Mr. Baggett claims he has participated in several training sessions and conferences, majority of which were conducted through Handwriting University. Mr. Baggett further testified he is a member of the American College of Forensic Examiners, which does exist, and the World Federation of Handwriting Experts. He claims to have been qualified or appointed as an expert witness, but in over 50 cases between '05 and 2012. Most recently, he accepted as an expert in 2012 in a case United States for the Northern District Texas. Now, on the surface, Mr. Baggett's credentials are noteworthy. They are certainly impressed defendant enough to retain him as an opinion witness. Yet, in this field, due diligence necessitates probing beneath the surface. In his case, even a small amount of
Ouch.
probing would have unearthed a rather different picture. During voir dire, the government whittled away at Mr. Baggett's qualifications, beginning with his training experience. He admitted that his undergraduate and graduate studies were of no particular relevance to his training as a document examiner. And he could not recall whether his military police, the MP school officers training, addressed forensic documentation examination techniques. The court is willing to accept that preferred statement made by the American Board or ABFDE. Okay. Now, if you go and look at ABDFE, he doesn't exist. He's never done anything then.
Oh, good
On the
lord.
job specialized training for mixed.
He
Yeah.
made up his own association?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. His on-the-job training for 2 years under Mr. Walker is questionable, given concerns that were raised about Walker's qualifications and credibility. In a case predating Dahmer, but occurring after Mr. Baggett was trained under Walker, the Fifth Circuit affirmed a district court decision not to qualify him as a handwriting expert. It was in the position to assess Walker's credibility, to evaluate the conflicting evidence on Walker's qualifications from this questionable training experience. Mr. Baggett proceeded to start Handwriting University with his son and both taught and later received continuing education at that same university that they created. There's, see, whenever people are trained in these kinds of things, there's some sort of check and balance. You
Yeah,
have somebody that is just as qualified as you and can look at it and be objective and say, yeah, that's you're doing it wrong.
well, especially with something that has to rely on the human eye finding patterns, because the human brain and the human eye are really good at finding patterns
Mhm.
even when they're not there. So you need someone else, especially with something that's so subjective, like, is this tea the same?
Right.
Have someone come in with fresh eyes and say, "I've done the measurements, I've done everything that we're supposed to do by the book, and as humanly possible, this looks similar and could be." And we've even sort of downgraded, it's no longer a fingerprint, it's more of a can't be excluded or, can be included.
Right. Well, and you have to understand that not all times are you going to write exactly the same way. Depends on the position of, like, my wife, she watches me write, and I actually can have really good handwriting most of the time. Whenever I'm actually trying to write something out, I do have good handwriting. The only problem is most of the time whenever I'm writing something out really quick, my handwriting is absolutely horrendous. Hell, half the time I can't even read it. You know, that's why after I'm done writing something out, like whenever I watched a hearing, that isn't allowed to be recorded, I had to take notes on it, like, a lot of notes, and I filled up, like, 4 notebook pages of, we're talking big notebook, filled these things
Oh,
out with
yeah.
all the notes that I was taking. Well, I went back and actually, because it was still fresh in my mind, I actually typed it all out
Yeah.
because you couldn't read it otherwise. And once I was done, I found a lot of mistakes, misspellings, things like that, and was able to get all of that stuff corrected. But if I would have had the time to actually sit down and write it out, I can write really nice. It doesn't have all the girl flourish and stuff, but it's legible. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and that's the thing, it's so multifactorial that you're looking for similarities, not twins, and that's in it of itself subjective already, so you do need to have procedures, and I mean, I know there are forensic document examiners, I just don't know what criteria they use, but I've watched trials where we've had document like, "We've tested this, looks like it's." So there are legitimate ones of these kind of professionals, but
Well, and
he doesn't.
a perfect example would be Son of Sam. His handwriting was always the same. He always did certain he did like a little symbol, and it was the things that he said in it and the phrasing was most important. It wasn't just the handwriting by itself. And so whenever a letter would come in, they would almost disregard it because it didn't look like his handwriting. It was missing certain key things in the
Yeah, and there is that other aspect that there are people that, you know, look for different personality traits in phraseology. So I didn't know if he was the type of document examiner that was looking for like the kind of context clues to kind of give identity or profiling of that way, or if he's simply a this signature looks the same kind of document examiner.
well, and that's the thing because he can never resolve why, like, to anyone's satisfaction. I mean, he's a good bullshit talker, but you also have to remember that whenever he was a landlord, one of his tenants was trying to get their stuff back and paid their rent and showed up to his house, and he pulled a firearm on him and fired off 2 rounds at him and got himself arrested for shooting at them, okay? Because he went unhinged on them. So
Huh.
so, he's the kind of person that if you dispute what he says, he's likely to go off and just to prove himself right or being in the right. You spelled his
Ye
name wrong. It's
Dahmer? Is there a U in it? I thought there was, but then I'm a terrible speller, so
no,
I
it's
was
an
like, "Looks
ER.
about right."
I probably spelled it wrong. Yeah, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I spelled it, I believe, like they have it in the hearing. Pretty sure that's how they spell it, but I could be
I
wrong.
could.
I'm not worried about it. If you don't know who Dahmer is, then, well, no, it's Dahmer. That's how it's spelled.
Oh, I don't know why I thought there was a U in there.
I I I I don't know why I thought there was a U in there either, but there's not. It's just Dahmer. That's how it's spelled. I'm sticking by it. At least that's how Court TV spelled it. So now, although Mr. Backett testifies as a member of other professional organizations, his memberships in those groups reveals very little about his training or credentials. Um, to become a member, one only need complete an application, pay a fee, and in the case of one organization, complete an ethics exam.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Now, in the Middle District of Georgia, determined Mr. Baggett was not qualified to testify as an opinion witness. Among other things, the court concluded Mr. Baggett's qualifications were clearly paltry in comparison to other document examiners whose testimony had been admitted in the same district and circuit. They observed Mr. Baggett at the time was not certified by ABFDE or a member of any of the other 20 nationally recognized document examiner trade organizations. He has never subjected himself to any sort of proficiency tests or regular peer review, has never authored an authoritative text in his field, has never received training in notable government training programs, never taught a recognized program for his field. Instead, at most, evidence shows Mr. Baggett received a vast majority of his training in his field, not from a recognized or accredited program, but from Dr. Ray Walker,
Oh, good night,
based
nurse.
on 22 years of doing that. And he had a one-on-one or one or 2 year stint examining checks for forgeries as a consultant to Dallas, Texas Justice of the Peace Court. He was not qualified to offer testimony as a forensic document examiner in West Virginia. Court observed, a matter of law, Baggett lacked any formal training. His apprenticeship with Ray Walker had not been shown to provide. Like I said, this goes on.
Well, and this is another thing that was brought up in the Lindsay Clancy case because the first expert, and we haven't gotten to the cross. Basically, I'm only doing crosses in this case anymore. I cannot deal with the Commonwealth.
Oh,
I'm glad there are other adult channels that are covering this trial the whole way because I just can't anymore. But the expert that was brought in by oh gosh, Dietz and Associates, was in fact disqualified in multiple other state and federal courts for not having the qualifications that were necessary in the case that he was brought in for. So he was they were kind of using the overall umbrella of him being a psychiatrist to kind of cover things that weren't his special area of focus. And again, the courts don't like this. You are brought in for a specific reason, and if the lawyers say you are going to be bringing in, your professional insight into this, and then the court finds out that you have no expertise or no publishing, nothing at all related to the field or the subject that you're trying to talk about, they don't like that.
or
Don't lie to the court.
how about, well, like he did here? The court was also troubled by Mr. Baggett's criminal history. He received a felony convictions for theft and aggravated assault dating back approximately 1989, 1998. Respectively, he also received deferred adjudication after pleading guilty to misdemeanor offense of tampering with a government record in 2000, which stemmed from his failure to truthfully disclose his criminal history on a government form. Court recognized that even the most recent of these events occurred nearly 12 years ago, that he has not had any recent encounters with the law. Nevertheless, they detract from Mr. Baggett's credibility. Also, more troubling than the convictions is Mr. Baggett's explanation for the convictions. He swore and inadvertently picked up a computer part at a post office, and when he took it back, was convicted for theft of a computer. Now, with respect to the
Mhm.
assault conviction, he testified a guy threatened him and merely shot up in the air, except he fired at the ground in front of the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't do either of those things.
Baggett retracted his testimony that the court had designated him as an expert in this case. Baggett testified he is not licensed as a psychologist or a psychotherapist and not practiced therapy full time for 15 years. He was a reflexologist, I believe. Yeah, gives foot rubs. Although he still conducts occasional weight loss and stress management seminars, Baggett works primarily in real estate and financial planning. Yeah.
I do what now? Wait a minute. I thought he was the head dean of the University of Hogwarts for handwriting.
Yeah. 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 Like
Weird.
this is why whenever I've heard the antis bring up like their expert, I'm like, oh, did you even vet this guy before you sent him money?
Oh
They
god.
sent him who knows how many thousands of dollars or hundreds, possibly thousands of dollars to this guy to verify that the handwriting on some sign was Jeremy's, although it's already been testified in court that Lynette and John wrote or posted those signs.
I
It's already been
I
testified in Ohio court. I mean,
what is wrong with
it's just
people?
like it's like you sit there and you go, is my brain not attached somewhere where things are just not
No, because some
hitting?
people think that the expert this morning did a really good job fending off K-Shred's what I would kindly call a Victorian vivisection of his professional career without anesthesia. Um, but they thought he did a great job. So it is legitimately I have no idea what reality is anymore or what people think reality is. Because I know what I thought reality is, but apparently we are watching the same movie but two different films.
Well, that and that's why I was just like, I don't wanna go through a lot of these experts on this. I know that somebody might find it interesting. If you like and you do find it interesting, you can always find it over on Court TV. Court TV has all of those doctors' testimonies. Me, I don't want to do that. I don't wanna torture my chat with that.
There is a certain interesting aspect to watch the doctors try to piece together what they perceive
Right.
from Dahmer, but it's his normal is so polar opposite from most normal people that it would take a pretty unique mind to even all the way quantify and clinify exactly what happened in there.
Well, and I don't wanna go through 2 weeks of one doctor's testimony. Sorry
Oh,
sorry,
no.
chat. Like we're talking hours upon hours of testimony where this guy was testifying for hours every single day. So I'm pushing it forward to the closing arguments.
And and that's good because I think we do get you can get bogged down in pathologizing and clinifying Dahmer, but at the end of the day, there are, 17 victims that never go home to their family, and this was all about deciding where he was gonna go.
Yes, and that's really what this case was about because he already admitted that he did it. It wasn't like he said, "No, I didn't do any of this," but they were trying to determine whether they were gonna find him guilty by reason of insanity, put him in a mental institution, or find him, just guilty and send him to Gen Pop.
Court Branch 33 and Fort Washington County is now in session. The Honorable Lord C. Graham Jr. presiding. Silence is commanded. You may be seated.
And I'm gonna probably skip over some of
Judge,
this
at the beginning of the
because I don't wanna hear what the judge is going to tell me.
Please, the court.
We know the
And
speech.
staff and my staff and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. We had at the close of business yesterday agreed to some time constraints as to how long we would take as an ultimate. I pledge
Take
to
your
you
time.
that I will not speak 1 minute longer than I feel I have to.
Liar.
I ask you to give to me, as I know you will, for the next 45 to 50 minutes, your undivided attention. There's a lot of distractions in the courtroom, and there's a lot of reasons we look away. That doesn't mean you're not listening, I understand that, but the next exercise that I do in this courtroom has the imprimatur. It is the most important thing that's going to happen in many of our lives. See, we all do things as they affect
Bonnie.
us. We make decisions about ourselves. Sometimes as parents or spouses, we help make decisions on others. Sometimes we make decisions where our kids go to school, what kind of car they drive, when they can go out.
Where
I'm
in the hell is he going with this? Like,
He's
I
trying to tell them how important it is, their decision that they're making.
I I get that, but they've sat through this trial. I
Okay. Yeah. So, he's still going off on whether it means, that's whether or not a person, blah, 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 had to wrestle because of mental disease. There we go. So he's just he's trying to lighten the blow of the decision they have to make.
On the question of whether or not he appreciated right from wrong. He did. So I'm here to talk to you about whether or not this mental disease that we have proffered was met to a reasonable degree of certainty by the greater weight of the credible evidence.
Evening, Jason.
And if I have shown that,
Bring the
and I
noise,
don't mean
brother.
I
Bring
like
the
I'm on an ego
noise.
trip, my job is, if I have achieved that, then the next question is, as a result of that mental disease, did he lack substantial capacity to conform his conduct to the requirements of law? And I submit to you, that's the only question that you're going to have to wrestle with, because the mental disease was proven to a reasonable certainty by the greater weight of the credible evidence. So in preparing...
That not true. Not true.
no, and the problem is that you can be depressed and know that you're being an a-hole. So the law requires that he basically have done this all in public.
Well, it's more than that. I mean, what they're saying is he didn't have the mental capacity, not necessarily from right or wrong, but he was addicted to it. So, this, and I don't mean to sound really harsh and bad. It probably is going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. Whenever I hear somebody talking about alcoholism being a disease, it really pisses me off. That's because it's giving an excuse for bad behavior. And
It
it's
ticks me off. There is research that your brain creates habit pathways, and
yeah,
I can respect that. But when you pathologize something, when you do that, you give people an excuse to say, "Well, it's just like it's." You wouldn't give a diabetic a candy bar. You
right,
don't give an alcoholic a beer. Like, there's just
right. I mean, I understand that, but it's just I don't
it
want
is
to.
irritating, though.
Yes, because it's something that can easily be controlled. Alcohol is something that can be controlled. I mean, at some point, it can kill you because your body does react to having that in there. But to give this blanket excuse while it's a disease, it's just like, well, it sounds to me like it's just an excuse to,
Well, and if anything gives a stigma quicker, and this has been my argument the entire time, is allowing uh, these criminals to, say, "Oh, well, I had a terrible childhood," or "I have depression," or "I have X, Y, and Z," when we all know someone who's struggling with their own mental health issues, and they aren't an a-hole that takes it out on society writ large.
well, and and that's just like you get certain demographics that grow up in a really crappy neighborhood, that turn into, for example, you got a black neighborhood. Well, I grew up in the ghetto, and I all I know is gang banging. And so therefore I shouldn't be, held accountable for, for all of the bad circumstances I was in. But that that's just that's a cop out and excuse, because not everybody that comes from or background or upbringing, it's a choice that you make at a certain point in time to stop and say, this is not what I want to do with my life. It is incumbent upon you as a free individual to use that thing called free will that was given to us by God, to use that to do better, to say, I don't need to be doing this. It doesn't matter at this point. I will rise above it and become something more than everybody else in my neighborhood. And whether you like it or not, that and there's people that they've risen themselves out of some of the worst conditions, and become very, very successful. Clarence Thomas. I mean, he didn't come from, the best part of town, but he continued to work very diligently to get himself to where he is today. And that really makes a lot of people mad, but I think he's one of the best justices we've had.
Yeah, and there the thing is that everyone is dealt a raw deal in some aspect. Even the people that you think have everything together and on paper have everything going for us. There's something that is missing in their life. It's the human condition. So on paper, it looks like there's a lot of these advantages and disadvantages, but you make your own life what it is. You can either sit and be sorry for yourself because as a person, I'll take my weight, for example. As a person who's been fluffier and been skinnier,
Yep.
I've always known, my relationship between my mouth and my fork, you
Yes,
know?
we all do.
I have not ever been confused as to why I was retaining cookies, all right? Like, what happened?
Well, and it's the same way as I've gotten older. I was like, "Oh, man, I just can't burn through the calories like I did before. I actually have to work much harder to burn through it." Like, whenever I was younger, I mean, I could sit down and eat a whole damn pizza by myself and, nothing. Now, if I sit down and eat a whole pizza, I'm about ready to throw up. Just no.
Yeah, so obesity is a disease. It's clinified or it's, pathologized now. It's a disease. And yes, there are factors that can make it harder for you to lose weight.
Right.
There's a healthy size for all of our bodies that's
Mhm.
probably not a size 4. Now, instead of being, for women or, as tiny as you can possibly get, which seems to be the societal goal here lately, that's not gonna be healthy for most of our bodies. Maybe our healthy is at a 14 or a 10 or wherever it is, but the thing is we can all be a little bit healthier. We can always make better
Mhm.
choices, but the minute you give people an excuse and say, "Oh, well, obesity is a disease and it's my glands." I say this as a person who has thyroid issues myself, so it's not like I couldn't reach for that in the bag of excuses I have. It makes it harder to lose weight. It doesn't make me not responsible for what I put in my mouth.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm the same way. It's just like, I'll have probably way too many drinks than I should have, but, it's just like, well, doggone it. It just means I have to work harder. Have to work out even harder tomorrow. Ah, the fun of putting
Preparing
on weight.
myself for what I was going to do here today, I have made a lot of decisions. One of which is I'm not going to bore you to death by telling you 10,000 times from Sunday what you already know. Secondly, I'm going to try and focus on Jeffrey Dahmer as a human being, not for sympathy. He deserves absolutely no sympathy unless he was mentally ill.
Well, and that's what you've been trying to say, that he's mentally ill.
Yeah,
So he
but
just he just
I
double
think
spoke right
that
there.
well, no, I think he wants to be very clear because I think that uh, optically, it could look like, "Feel sorry for Jeffrey Dahmer. I'm putting on a sob story. I wanna make his childhood or his mental health the issue." Here he's being very clear. What he did was evil, and he's being masterful where he's s attempting to separate Jeffrey Dahmer from the mental illness and making that the monster kind of in and of itself, that Jeffrey is separate from his diseased brain.
Mm.
Now, no one's gonna buy it. We all know how this ends, but he is attempting to do this. It's a tall order, and it would take someone with almost god level skills. Like, if Effley Bailey and Johnny Cochran had a baby, maybe, maybe, but it would take an incredibly skilled attorney to thread that needle, and I don't think anyone could.
No, I don't even think Johnny Cochran could. I mean, couldn't
No,
even come
no.
close, because, yeah, it's reprehensible, the things that he did, just Unbelievable.
None. But if he was a product of a mental disease, then he deserves sympathy in the same way that a person who has a physical problem or disease deserves sympathy. But this is not a case of sympathy. This is a case of fact. And I have accepted that
He
burden
will.
to prove to you
He will, Stephen.
that he was mentally diseased. The definition in the jury instructions is not something that's just made up. This is a group of the greatest minds in the state that said, in our state, in all of the courts, and in the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court, we accept a person as being mentally diseased when he has an impairment of the mind, whether enduring or transitory, that affects his mental and emotional processes. And if you say, you know,
Well,
And
no, I
yet you
could,
chose that tie.
right. Well, and I mean, I could understand if he was full on with what's called mental retardation, where he couldn't he couldn't he couldn't access that part of his brain to get him past like the third grade level.
Yeah.
Or even like out of childhood, like non-speaking autistic or something that does something absolutely horrendous and doesn't realize, it's just, I don't understand why humans stop breathing kind of thing. And
Yeah,
not even
this
be able to
isn't a
comprehend
mice of
something.
men thing. This isn't a
Right.
Lenny, who just, you know, this is he was calculated. He picked people that weren't going to be missed. He took trophies. There was a whole ritual to this. There was gratification for him and treating people like pawns or at the very least just mannequins. I mean, this is
Mhm.
so this isn't the same situation, and I do think that this was radical thinking for this time period. This was
Yeah.
right at the start of understanding that mental health, can is a thing. I mean, this was the
Right.
start of kind of the breaking of the stigma of even talking about mental health
Well, yeah,
ish.
and well, sort of, because you also have to remember back, you know, this is what, 92? So during Reagan's time, he opened up the mental institutions because they were really poorly run.
Yes.
The abuse that was going on in these mental institutions was so horrendous, where people might be strapped into a bed to sit in their own feces and urine for weeks, days on end with nobody doing anything except feeding them and, maybe hosing them down with a fire hose, because they didn't know how to handle certain people that might be violent. This is this and after that happened, a lot of people that were on that spectrum of where they probably shouldn't be out, but they had nowhere else to put them. They were putting them in prisons. I mean, it was so you're absolutely right. This was at the time where people were just starting to figure out that there's people in society that are absolutely horrible, and had they been stopped earlier, that they might be handled a little bit differently.
what? He was mentally diseased, and you agree to that by the numbers that you have to pursuant to law, then you go into the question of the conformity. So because I'm not going to stress a lot of facts, it's because I don't think they need to be stressed, except hopefully as I've done it to aid you. We have all taken oaths. I asked the question in voir dire.
Oats. I like
Which are
oats.
all exactly the same as we stand here today.
I like my oats
having
toasted.
taken a solemn oath to see that the ends of justice are done. And none of us will violate that. That I'm certain of. None of us are going to say, I'm going to make my decision on the basis of what's going to be perceived later. I am so convinced that we are able in this country of ours to get jurors to call it the way they see it. Because when you take the oath, that's what you say you're going to do, and you're putting all other things in consideration. We got a lot of
Oh,
a la
man.
carte Americans, in this country. They
Lon.
want to rewrite the Constitution.
Lori,
They really want to rewrite the Declaration of Independence. They want to tell you, well, in this kind of a case, forget justice. Come on, he killed all these people, forget it. It's all over with. He doesn't deserve the time of day. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. They're boat people, that's what they are. They should get on boats and get out of here and go live in a country where that kind of stuff goes on.
What?
It doesn't go on in America.
What?
Yeah.
Sir, what you don't want to do is take people's natural proclivities to the monstrous thing that your client did, because it is natural. People's first response is, it's a monster. We can't have him in society. And because we're not, insane anymore, we've decided to get a jury together. But we don't deny that is our first. That's why we put on all this due process, to give us time to let more rational, clear-headed minds think. But we don't tell people that their natural inclination to say monster means that you should be put on a boat.
On a
I
slow
see
boat
why
to
maybe
China.
can't imagine what the jury was thinking. Like, I guess we're boat people now, because I'd have been sailing away at this point. Like, what in the hell?
Oh yeah, it's I just I know a lot of what was going on at this point in time in the United States. So it's more, he's making a political statement that in hindsight people are like, huh? That makes no sense. You have to think this was also 1991. Okay, 92.
Cuba.
Elian, Gonzalez, all these kinds of things were sort of fresh in people's minds. Of people trying to escape horrendous places, So there was no Cuban Missile Crisis, but there was a lot of immigration that was happening into the United States at this point in time. This is after, I believe, after Bush sort of had granted immunity to a lot of illegals living in the United States. And a lot of people in the United States were not too happy about it. And we're just like, we need to send these people back to the damn country. I joke not. You have to remember the political situation at the time.
Yeah, no, I just don't ever inject politics into anything you're trying to win, because half of the whatever audience you're in is going to hate your guts now. That's
Yep.
why Dolly doesn't say nothing about politics. She's just Dolly.
Yep, exactly. I mean, I wish we had the DP for this guy and didn't care at all when he was taken out of prison. Yeah.
Because we live in a country where we all are entitled to liberty and justice.
This would be
and
the first
justice
George Bush.
is met by your verdict, not by what I think, not by what Mr. McCann thinks, not by what these 7 doctors think or the judge thinks. It's what you think. That's what justice is. And whichever way you call it, it's justice, as long as we subscribe to the oath that we took. Now, the reason I say 7 doctors is because I believe that you have heard from such star professionals. Each and every one of these men and one woman that came in here to talk to you put their whole person on the line to do what? Because they wanted to volunteer to come in on this big serial murder case? Nonsense. You see, justice in finite terms is decided by judges and courts and juries. Justice in the infinite term is decided by our Maker, our Creator. And we subscribe to the Christian Judeo philosophy, which says that every human being will be judged someday. And those of us who run from our responsibilities are not.
Well, yeah, you're sort of right, in a sense of, yes, everybody will be judged by their creator at some point in time, but you can't allow monsters to continue to do what they want whenever they don't want to be part of a civil society. You can't allow that to continue.
Yeah, so again, justice is not only for redemptive purposes, but it's threefold. It's to remove you from society, to protect society, and then to, atone and rehabilitate. But these first two are paramount: protection of society and removal of you from society for, you know, those are the two
A
main
period of
functions of
time.
prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it was created for. I mean, prisons weren't created to put you there indefinitely. I mean, they really weren't. The
No, and there can be a touch of mercy, but the system and having due process is the mercy. The fact that we didn't have, the boat people form a mob
the
is the
fact the
mercy
fact
that our system affords. That is
the
the
fact that they don't
Judeo-Christian mercy.
the fact that they don't put you under flames and say, "Well, witches will burn," and lighting you on fire as, so if they're a witch, they'll burn. If they're not a witch, they won't burn, but they'll be dead anyway. That, there's a reason why we don't have lynch mobs, why we don't do that, because that makes society no better than the monsters that they're trying to protect
And
themselves from.
and look at our system. I mean, there are rules and subsections. Look at just how much we went through with one expert about handwriting. We have so many. I mean, our system isn't perfect, and I'll be the first to say that. But there are so many checks and balances that when the system works correctly, it's one of the best ones that is out there.
Right. And I mean, does it need work? Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because some people abuse the system. The judicial system can be easily abused. Not necessarily in criminal as much as you'll see it in civil. And that's where a lot of people get confused of civil procedures and criminal procedures, because they're going to be completely different. The way evidence gets presented, the way that things are talked about. Like in a civil case, a lot of what they were doing in this case right here would never be even allowed. But other things would be absolutely allowed. Like that. And I didn't realize this. I thought, courts justice was pretty much the same way. Everything was tried the same way until I started following court cases and started understanding that, like, criminal procedures, there's different things in there that don't even apply in civil, and vice versa. They're completely different. Like, I was like, oh, now that makes much more sense that you would separate it like that too. So if she weighs the same as a duck, then she's made of wood. Exactly.
Not going to be judged too well. I don't know how badly. But my responsibility, the day I said I'm your lawyer, was to be his lawyer. Just as Mr. McCann, who I have the greatest respect for, says that as the sworn advocate of the people, I'm going to prove you're wrong, Boyle, that you didn't prove it. And you folks will be the ones who make the decision. Milwaukee and the harm that has been caused to these 17 people, 15 of whom died in this city, has been such a reprehensible concept that it appears as though Milwaukee is now a laughable place. Nonsense.
No, it's always
We
been
have
a laughable place.
spotlighted Milwaukee as the best place to get the fairest trial. We have cleansed that image,
Shizzy,
and your verdict
pause.
will do it no matter what your verdict is.
Yeah.
Why is Dave Thomas from Wendy's yelling at me? My brain keeps saying, "Why is Dave Thomas yelling at me?"
Because he wants you to buy a burger. You know what, Mo? You should have just came with your hair in pigtails.
I would have distracted him. It would have all been over. I would have said Frosties for all and Pippi Longstocking lives forever. Mount this joint.
Biggie fries.
Well, but he also looks like, so there were some big character actors in the Ernest P. Worrell movies, which I believe were robbed of Oscars as
Yes.
in their time. So he reminds me of, like, one of the security guards in Ernest Goes to Jail,
Oh,
which is a commentary on our legal system that is just as relevant today, damn it.
have you seen Run, Ronnie, Run?
No, but it's on my list to watch because
Oh,
I know it's hysterical.
it is so good. Jeff Goldblum gets to be Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff
It's awesome.
Goldblum always plays Jeff Goldblum. One
No,
day I
he
will
plays
play
Jeff
Jeff
Goldblum.
Goldblum.
No, Jeff Goldblum plays Jeff Goldblum in this movie. Like, it is completely it is everything that is absolutely hilarious about that period of time. 'Cause you have to remember you had at that period of time, Cops was a big, a big TV show. And basically, Run, Ronnie, Run is a horrible producer that gets kicked out of the industry, sees this guy has been arrested multiple times and decides to go and find him and sort of, like, track him down. And I think Margot Robbie's in it also
Oh,
as
I'll have to
as
watch.
as his wife, or I mean, it's just hilarious. Oh, god. He's selling you a Baconator, though. Oh, yeah. Well,
You didn't have any poppycock professionals coming in here with poppycock ideas. You had
Poppycock.
great people whose
right, Lori.
lives are either devoted to treating people who are sick or to try and helping other people understand what that sickness means. So we stand here proud, forgetting the tragedy that has happened in order to make sure that Milwaukee is a place where justice is meted out, whatever your verdict is. And that will be achieved. And that I'm not concerned about.
good. Then why are you talking about it?
And if anyone in the world suggests that for one moment, I don't really mean it when I say I feel sympathy for the victims and the families of the victims, then I don't have to listen to anybody who would make that statement, because I do. Mr.
What?
Dahmer pled guilty.
Wait a minute, pause.
He talked to the police.
He just pulled a Jess Machado before it became a thing. He's like,
Yeah.
if anyone wants to call me out, first of all, I said what I said, and you can't say nothing to me.
Yeah. It's just like, I'm totally not.
I did nothing wrong. I have
did nothing-
sympathy, okay? I'm sympathizing.
I'm sympathizing. Can you help me with my eyebrows? Come on, Mo.
For
Also,
60
you don't need to put that in a closing. No one, I mean, I understand that the papers were probably we've seen the attacks on Reddington, and anyone who vaguely supports the idea that mercy should be shown in the Lindsay Clancy case. We have seen how the internet cannot hold two opinions at once, that you can understand this is a horrible tragedy, and then maybe also understand that there were some failures in the mental health care that was provided to this woman. It doesn't negate or erase this, but you don't put this in your closing statement. You are not going to win over the people that hate you. You're just not. They aren't willing to listen to you. They have made up their mind. So
Right.
saying a statement like this is not going to change the mind of the people that already don't like you.
No. Well, and I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get people to actually like him for, and I feel for him. This is a tough situation to be
Yeah.
in, where you have to represent somebody that you absolutely find despicable, and you
A-
and you
And I
got
will
to
say,
keep with your
just in the little snippets that I've seen and how he presented himself and the case, he has done a very good job of presenting this case. He hasn't done a Nestor where he's ill prepared or, asking for continuation after continuation. The state brought in their experts and he said, "Okay, these are my experts." He didn't whine, he didn't, I have to go
I mean,
back,
there
but I
there
don't.
were but see, that's the thing. He would do the little jabs, but he didn't do them. If you've been watching legal cases long enough, when they're making jabs at one another. But he also did it very respectfully for the court. Like, instead of downright calling someone a dumbass, he's been very skillful with his words and, saying, arguing it with the law, saying, well, according to this case, blah, blah, blah. And we saw that whenever they wanted to bring in Mr. Wrestler. So, he was very skillful with the other guy to getting up there and just basically like, yeah, we're not doing that. But both of them have had jabs at one another, but they've also been respectful because at the end of the day, they've got other cases to hear in front of these judges.
Yeah, and look, there have been little jabs, and I'm sure it has to be irritating when you open up. And this was even before the internet, but, this was the time where, cable started, I think, testing out their 24-hour news cycle, and what would be bigger than the Jeffrey Dahmer case? So, imagine this was in the infancy of televised trials.
Yeah.
So, not only is he not used to having everything scrutinized, but I'm sure he's hearing how awful he is every day with every number of pundit coming up and saying, "I can't believe he disgraced himself to," again, even lawyers, even pundits that know these things will say things like, "I can't believe he's defending this person,"
Oh,
even
yeah,
though they
yeah.
know that it's a function of the way our law works.
It's a
They
function of
will
our judicial system. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, but they will make it seem as though if you are defending in any way a defendant, you are a monster or you must agree or co-sign with their behaviors.
No. Well, I mean, it's the same. Here's the thing. It's the same way with Jeremy. And I think this is one of the reasons why, I I I respect Jeremy, he respects me in this aspect of I don't agree with every single thing that Jeremy does and says. I don't co-sign for every little thing that he does. I'm not like that. And whenever I see something that is like, yeah, I wouldn't have handled it that way, or I don't agree with that. I'm not doing it to berate him. I'm doing it because it's just not my style. Like he's a little more bombastic than I am, but that's him. And he realizes that, and he doesn't it's like I've called balls and strikes throughout all of the cases that I've watched that he's been involved in, and it's numerous. I wouldn't have done half of the suits that he's brought. And I've said it. I've said it on streams. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that, but this is not my decision. I'm not the one forking over the money to do this stuff. I think it's a waste of money to do certain things, but hey, it's not my case. I'm just covering it. And that I think society's lost a lot of that, of what they want. Because you find Clancy reprehensible in the things that she's done, you also find it reprehensible in the way that the Commonwealth is acting towards her.
Well, that's the problem. I don't think that people look, there's an easy way to clickbait the Clancy case or the Dahmer case. It's a monstrous tragedy. It doesn't take much effort to say "monster" and point it out.
Yeah,
It takes innumerable effort to sit through the trial like those of us who have been watching, and then take all that information and say, "What would I do as a juror?" Now, I've already publicly said that as a recovering Catholic, and I mean that in the joking way it's meant,
right.
but the fact that the Commonwealth brought up Catholicism, I would have to go to the judge and say, "Look, I can objectively look at their case, which I think is dog shit, but I viscerally hate these women now. So I am able to be objective, but I dislike these women to the point that it is visceral now. So do with that what you will. If that means I'm no longer a juror, I need to be honest with you that I cannot stand these women and
Right.
the way they have brought religion into this. And if you wanted to do a good job, you could have done a good job on this case and not tortured everyone with the process."
Right. Exactly. That's been one of the things that drives me nuts about about certain jurists, and I'm talking about jurists as far as attorneys in these cases.
Hours to cleanse himself in the way he thought he could for all of the harm and all of the evil that he has done. He doesn't deserve credit for that, except it's a fact. What more could he have done after his arrest? So that's a part of the past. We look to the present, and the present is whether or not he was mentally ill. His family has been harmed. Anyone who knew him has been harmed. People who came across him have been harmed. Policemen have been harmed. Probation officers have been harmed. Everybody's been harmed because he was able to fool them. He had a paraphilia that he didn't choose, that he discovered.
It was sort of like climbing Mount
How many
St. Helens.
times have I read a reoccurring?
You're climbing up this mountain. I didn't choose to climb up this mountain, but well, here I am. No, he sought these things out. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. Everyone has, like, to not get too graphic, I'm sure not everyone is vanilla, like, no direct eye contact and like the Victorians with the little sheet and the, you know. So there are certain things that everyone finds uniquely attractive. And some of those could be labeled as paraphilias. They're what is commonly called the kink community now.
Right.
Those are, in fact, paraphilias if you look at them clinically. Now, we don't treat them as such anymore because they're all about consent. But he didn't have a paraphilia. He maliciously acted without consent upon his paraphilia, which is a very different thing, sir. Because
Right.
had he found a partner that was like, I will pretend to be a mannequin and you can do whatever, that's between them. Like, do
Right.
whatever you want to do. But the fact that he, again, took these people and then did the god awful things they did to them is not a paraphilia. And that is, probably wasn't a big thing, but again, I am sure there were a lot of negative connotation for the gay community about this as well. I'm sure the absolute worst, most hateful people use this as a highlight that every gay man is a, closet monster instead of just someone who isn't attracted to women.
Right. Right. And that's the bad part about it. I mean, and that you also have to remember that stigma is stuck within the gay community for a long, long, long time of, and it, I- what really I think aggravates me about it is now they're trying to swing that pendulum so hard that they're forcing this kind of gay thing into almost anything that you watch anymore on TV. They always have to have some sort of gay couple there. It's just like, oh, for God's sake, you're taking away from the story to create some sort of side quest. The story is about, a superhero or whatever that's, that has this thing going on. Whether he's trying to save the world or get the girl or whatever it is. But then you've got like some side quest of like some chick or something or dude that's like into another chick or dude. What does this have to do with the main story? Like,
No, no.
I don't like that. I mean, I don't
I
care.
would rather it be organic. Like,
Right.
okay, like
Exactly.
the House of the Dragons, a show I don't watch, but I like the deep psychoanalytical I can't even say
Right.
that word. F analysis, first of all. It's a stupid word. It's just like Uranus. We should name it something else. Anyways, there is a character who is in a lavender marriage who is gay, but it's not treated as, oh my God, he's gay. And he doesn't
Right.
come in flamboyantly being gay. It is just another
Aspect of the story.
aspect of him. It's not his
Right.
whole personality. for the love of Cheetos, if I could give the internet any advice, it's whatever you are currently diagnosed or labeled with, it's not your old personality.
Exactly. There's much more to people than what you see, but it, I'm going sidetracked. I'm sorry.
Intense
Sidetrack. What are you
sexual
talking
urges
about?
and sexually arousing fantasies that markedly distress someone who acts on them. How would you like, at the age of 15, to wake up and start thinking, I'm having fantasies about making love to dead bodies? What kind of person would ever wish that on any human being? And who do you tell it to?
Well, nobody wished that upon him. He just started acting upon this.
Yeah, and I mean, there is an argument as to, and there's still studies going on about where these paraphilias line up in childhood. Usually, is there an because there is a
Is
school of
there
thought that there's
right,
instigating incidences that kind of lead you to this, along with
nurture over nature, that
yeah.
kind of
So
thing.
yeah, so that kind of thing. So there is still a lot that we don't know about how these things even come into being.
Right.
And that's the danger of trying to over pathologize someone like Jeffrey Dahmer. When we look for answers, the thing is that every person is so unique and is gonna present so uniquely that there are sort of things and thorough lines that you can get, but you're also depending on Jeffrey Dahmer to give you
Yeah.
his own narration.
And you also have to look out for this because back in the what 50s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, you still had psychiatrists and psychoanalysts and all this kind of stuff where they believed that men or women with certain facial features were more prone to like violent acts.
Yeah,
You know,
phrenology,
yeah,
the study of your skull, your
yeah,
scalp, and the kind of there was a thing called a criminal head shape for a long time. I mean, this was cutting edge solved science. If you had a criminal head shape, you just couldn't help it. They would send you to an insane asylum because they understood that you just couldn't help yourself, basically, and that was considered leading edge, cutting, bleeding science at the time. I
yeah.
mean, these weren't kooks, these weren't, crazy people. These were considered the thought leaders of the day.
Yes. And that's why whenever people are just like, "Yeah, but they're not," I'm like, I don't trust whenever these experts come in with their thought patterns of trying to put something on people that may, in a few years could be completely proven wrong. I I mean, I guess one of the best examples was, looking at the whole beer bug, that everybody was just like, well, if you're a smoker, it's you're 10 times more prone to get it. And then they come out with studies in the meantime that say actually the nicotine happens to hurt that particular virus. Mm.
Yeah,
So it's like,
it's very
is
much
that
is
true? Is it not? I mean, like that there's still studies being done on this. So
You
no
very
advice
much
here.
got to see 2 very distinct types of people. The people who do not take anything at face value and want the data in the study, and the people who like authority telling them they don't want to. A and
I don't want to
I'm
think.
not saying anything's right or wrong,
Nope.
but you did see 2 distinct reactions, and then the demifying of both of those reactions by the other side. They're both
Yeah,
natural, they're both human instincts, but we forget that some people just aren't wired like us.
exactly. Oh, and JK says, and maybe someone told him to go eat a bag of D's and he took it literally. Could have. Could have. They, I bet they call him Jeffrey Dumbass in school. Maybe.
Do you tell it to your mother? Do you tell it to your father? Who do you tell it to? Your best friend? I want to talk, if I can, about us as people.
Okay.
sports, happy. I have only positives. There isn't a positive thing on this. This is a young man who never had a relationship with another male on a friendly basis for a day's time.
No, it's pretty hard to whenever you delete them. Sorry that, that you just because you happen to, be of the same sex kind of thing, does it still give you the right to delete somebody? I'm sorry, I'm fast forwarding because I'm listening to him and everything that he's saying is it sounds like everything that he's doing is just, and I'm looking at it, I think that he could have sacked. I mean, I'm sorry, I would watch this whole thing, but it seems like everything that he's doing has just been like giving some sort of excuse for Jeffrey Dahmer's behavior.
Yeah, and that's why you have to be incredibly skillful as an orator to, again, make the mental illness. You would have to divorce the mental illness from Jeffrey. And unfortunately, most human beings are not able to, and hell, I don't think anyone could sit there and say, okay, the person in front of me who did all of these things, who viscerally, you know, tore these people apart, essentially, it is now saying, no, I'm sorry, my brain is broken. But he was able to function fairly easily through life and pick the victims that weren't going to be noticed. He knew what he was doing. And that's the problem. He
Yeah,
he
and I mean,
didn't come out after the first one and say, "Oh my god, dad, legitimately, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to handle this. I'm pretty sure I'm gay, but I also took someone's life." Wha Because he did have a choice. The moment he picked up that barbell with the first victim, when he crossed that line, and then
yes.
he proceeded to do it to more victims.
Exactly. And we're gonna hear a little bit from the prosecution's closing argument because, like I said, I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time on this because it becomes very tedious for me and my brain doesn't function this way. Like I can get the gist of what this guy was saying after he starts going off on, well, it's not really his fault. How are you supposed to deal with this if X, Y, and Z? Well, dude, that's those are bad questions. I mean, you're asking the impossible. Like, you're wanting me to put myself into a complete psychopath's shoes? Like,
No,
no.
and that's the other thing. I mean, again, we can all kind of, but this is so far beyond, it would be asking a lot to have the jury imagine they were a gay teen, okay? I mean, that would be asking a lot for 1992 jury to do,
Well,
especially
in fact,
in Milwaukee.
hell, you could have three people on that jury that are gay and not even know it.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It would be easier, or at least it would be a hard ask, but an easier ask for him to put it in the realm of understanding that he was a gay teenager. But he's asking them to understand that he's fantasizing about dead bodies. That's kind of a bridge no one's going to follow you across.
Exactly.
No. You're not going in there to say, we got to agree that he's sane. That's not it. The issue is, did he satisfy you to a reasonable certainty that he was insane? If he didn't, then the answer is no.
That pretty much sums up the whole case right here. I mean, they've got all this time to do it, and that would be all that it would take for me. I'm gonna hit the highlights here.
In other states, no other state's attorney asked him to testify. What about the federal government? No. Dr. Berlin is called upon to testify only by the defense. Important you consider that, especially when Dr. Dietz identifies him as being the only forensic psychiatrist he knows that advances the theory that a paraphilia is a defense on a responsibility charge in a murder case. Legitimate question to ask. He may be an intensely compassionate man wrapped up in treatment. In fact, there are several said, yes, I'd refer someone for treatment. No one said I would refer him for a forensic psychiatric evaluation. And does a person involved in treatment principally, a very caring man, do you over-identify sometimes? And that's the issue you have to ask. Do you over-identify?
Is this a two
I
bag?
want to tell you who
I think it
I
is.
identify with.
No, it's a comb
Okay,
over.
so yeah, that's a comb over. That he has officially grown these hairs to the length of my longest hair, then
And he's got 'em all-
executed.
Yeah.
But he's done a swirl here, which I give him extra credit for because, not a lot of guys do the swirl. It was almost like he was trumping without the teasing.
Well, and my uncle, he's got like my grandfather. Now I'm unique. Like I don't have the balding thing. The reason that I even have a hairline like this at my age is surprising because my hair is still thick. But my uncle has that where it would grow. He had it down like here, and he would comb it all over and then sort of give it like this little wrap to it. And he always wore a hat most of the time, so he didn't have to worry about it. But yeah, he had that up on top. And one day my cousin said, Dad, I'm going to give you a haircut because this doesn't look right anymore. Because it had grown so thin that, it
Yeah.
just couldn't do it. So she gave him a haircut, and I swear it took 20 years off of his age.
Yeah, and there are certain things that a really good stylist can do with, thinning hair for women too. There are certain hairstyles that will work well with the, hair that you've got.
Oh, she buzzed it down to where it was like within an eighth of an inch tall all the way around, So I mean, he still had like the little bit of fuzz, but it was just like, I mean, whenever, because, I was used to seeing him with some hair, and he always just like, who you fooling? Who you fooling, uncle? And then whenever he got it all trimmed, I was like, something's different. I was like, because you look much younger. And he was just like, and he just laughed. He was like, well, your cousin took me in and cut my hair. And she's laughing because she was like, yeah, the whole comb over thing just needed to go away. And he looks he looks sharper, more clean cut, I was like, okay, I see it now.
This has got to be done. Who are
Oof.
these people that died? You didn't
Look at
see their
this.
relatives come in and testify because there was a guilty plea. You didn't hear the facts in great detail. I don't want you to forget it. I don't want you to forget who they are. Sometimes, and this is when I'm in my work, naturally I see people getting very concerned about a defendant, what's happened to a defendant. And because the victim is gone and dead, the victim isn't there to say, hey, what about me? What about me? Don't forget Stephen Twomey, who died in the Ambassador Hotel with the defendant. Don't forget Richard James Doxtator on that board. James Doxtator, age 15, picked up by the defendant, age 15. Don't forget Richard Guerrero, who died at the defendant's hands. Don't forget Anthony Sears,
Can
who
you pause,
died at the
Shizzy?
defendant's hands.
Because I think if the prosecutors are ever going to pull on heartstrings, and normally I'm not a fan of this, a respectful display like this, he's not going into the gory details. He's just saying, hey, you got to hear about all of Jeffrey's struggles, but what about these people's? What about the stories we didn't hear about their own demons and what led them to get into that car with Jeffrey? And it's a very valid point. And I think that restraint like this is how you should do it. If you're going to do it, and I think it's important in this case to do it with all of the victims and how they can easily get lost. even if you're diligently taking notes, I think this is a respectful way to remind the jury that these are the people that didn't get a voice in this courtroom. And you're also to remember that when you're weighing your decision.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think this probably hits them harder than anything because
And
he's not going into the gory details. He's not talking about the skulls and the
and that's
fridge
why
and
I wish prosecutors would understand that restraint, that a well-placed the Athena Strand prosecutors did this very well because they were like, "We're not here to pull your heartstrings. Some of this stuff is gonna break your heart, and we apologize." And it wasn't until closing statements that they said, "You've heard for the past week all of his struggles, but I want you to remember the one person that we only heard their struggles for the amount of time until he silenced them." And then he put up a picture, and that more than the 2 weeks of hell that the Commonwealth has put the Lindsay Clancy jurors through with the graphic, detailed, nitty-gritty of this, what this prosecutor what it goes back to Steven Spielberg, and I always bring this up. Jaws is scarier because the animatronic failed, because Steven Spielberg had to get creative with how he didn't show you the monster because he realized that whatever your brain comes up with is going to be more terrifying and on the flip side, more poignant than anything that he can ever say. But if he lets the picture talk for the victim, it's so much more powerful than all the graphic details that you can put out.
what did Dahmer say when he met Lorena Bobbitt? You gonna eat that?
I love that we can go from the profound to the profane. It's
Yes.
just like I can over here wax eloquent, and then we're like, "What did Lorena Bobbitt get? Did they both get the beef dog?" It's just like
Lorena and Jeffrey Dahmer went to a cookout and they were trying to determine whose was whose. Is that yours or is that mine?
neither of
Sorry.
them checked vegan. Shockingly.
Shockingly. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And this is one of the reasons why I also wanted to play this part of what he's saying, because there's been so much belief that every single one of his victims was a certain nationality. And you're about to see from the first 3 right there, those are completely separate nationalities. First 4, all different nationalities.
Don't forget Raymond Smith, who died at the defendant's hands. Don't forget Edward Smith, who died at the defendant's hands. Don't forget Ernest Miller, who was stabbed to death by the defendant because he was becoming conscious. The defendant had to get a drink to do it. Don't forget Ernest Smith. Don't forget David Thomas, strangled by the defendant. Don't forget Curtis Straughter, strangled to death by the defendant. Don't forget Earl Lindsay, first drilled and eventually killed by the defendant. Don't forget Tony Anthony Hughes, first drilled and then extinguished by the defendant. Don't forget Conorak Synthesymphone, age, as I recollect, age 14, for a couple of days of sexual pleasure. Conorak Synthesymphone, age 14. Don't forget Matt Turner, extinguished by the defendant. Don't forget Jeremiah Weinberger, drilled, who made it alive, struggled for life for a day and a half, before he died at the hands of the defendant. Don't forget Oliver Lacey dying at the hands of the defendant. Don't forget Joseph Bredehoft dying at the hands of the defendant. His hands, those hands you've seen on that table, he wrapped them. First he drugged people so they couldn't resist, and that's being portrayed to you as a kindly act. A kindly act. He drugged them before he killed them. What a kind and considerate defendant. As I thought about preparing my final argument, I thought, remember, LP
Shizzy.
made it a
And this is one of these great things, one of these kind of things that good prosecutors will sit and think about and will pick out, because I'm sure that, this has been something that's bothering him. And now that he's collected his thoughts, the way it has been portrayed, it made it easier for Dahmer, but it has been portrayed as a kindness or a mercy to his victims. And the issue with that is at the end of the day, it helped Dahmer make it easier to do what he did. It wasn't a kindness, it was a functionality thing for him.
Yes. Because if they were awake and aware of what was happening, they would have fought back. It was a way of him controlling the situation.
Yeah, and that's why I don't think any lawyer, any defense lawyer could have threaded that needle where you completely, made this basically he was conscious and aware of what he was doing. That's why he drugged them. He didn't want them to fight back. The violence of it all made him squeamish. But so the prosecutor is right to point this out. And again, rather than going into the graphicness of the drilling and all of these other gross things that he could have brought up, he decided to focus on this to show how everything has been portrayed as Jeffrey coming forward and generously giving the victims closure, when really he's trying to save himself.
Right.
alive because he didn't have enough to drug him. He tried to hit him in the back, and LP got out. SS got out because he got out before the drugs took effect. Flowers got out because the grandmother saw him. But I thought to myself, is that a kindly act or a cowardly act to drug him before you kill him? Do you think if I asked each one of these men, each one of these young men, even down to the 14-year-old Conorak and the 15-year-old Dockstader, I said, would you like to take him on with your bare hands? Give him his knife and take him on. Every one of them said, my God, give me a chance for my life. Of course, I'd rather let him have his knife and I'll confront him barehanded and fight for my life. Foul, indecent, vicious act to drug him first. So a man didn't even have a chance to reach out, to grasp for life, to reach out. That was no favor. Don't kill me by drugging me. My God, come at me with a knife or a gun. I'll fight for my life, but don't drug me. That's what he did. And then for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, Dr. Palermo said, for 5 minutes it takes to strangle the life out of a man. 5 minutes. Want to do that? Shall we tick it off? How long it takes to strangle a man to death? Try it in the jury room. Try it for 5 minutes.
Pause.
And everybody.
The jury is explicitly told not to do their own experimentation.
Yes, there you are.
Also, it's probably not a good idea to practice consensual neck hugging with your fellow jurors.
Probably not.
I get what I get what he's going with, but just did want to pause and say you're not allowed, because that's what caused, I think, a mistrial in one of the cases, famously because the jury went back and tried to recreate the crime scene and did their own investigation.
Right.
And that's expressly prohibited.
Exactly. You know, if you can ponder it in your head, but
Yeah, yeah.
you know, don't be out there, you know, with your solo cups and try, you know, have someone back into you. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Bad call. Bad call. Maybe some of them depends on the situation. Well, depends on whether you like the foreman of the jury or not. Now, yeah, yeah.
But he says he, except for Wallstrom, knew what he was doing, in touch with reality. Knew it was wrong. Knew it was wrong. Don't kill me with a drug. Please. Give me a chance. Take a knife in each hand. Take a gun in each hand, but don't drug me before you kill me. That's no favor to me. In this case, how Tony died, it's a fact, though, because you want to consider that in the psychiatric assessment.
Yeah, I think he's going on too long again here.
What is this? You've got to walk a couple of blocks before they get to the grandmother's house. So even the cab driver would know what a trans.
Yeah, see, now he could have ended at that last piece.
Yeah, I do think sometimes lawyers, and look, you have to have a natural kind of gift for the gab if you're going to be a court attorney. And sometimes we like to hear ourselves talk.
Yeah. And he is definitely one that likes to hear himself talk. Like I said, I think that he would have done well to end it about that halfway mark. Because at some
But I
point,
can understand that he's dealing with the same pressure that we were talking about. This is one of the first televised big giant trials. We think like the Karen Reed thing was big. The world stopped for the O.J. Simpson trial. I mean, I was a kid, so I didn't quite understand why, but my mom was like one of the OG true crime why moms, okay? She was like, "Shh, Judge Ito's talking." And I would be like, "Why does that woman keep changing her hair?" And she's like, "You will not make fun of Marsha Clark." And I was like, "No, the rest of the world will do that for eternity.
yes.
I don't need to." Uh, it rang true. Uh, but this was so there is an enormous amount of pressure, and I do wonder if he was worried if he would get criticism if he kept it short and sweet. I don't think this was going to be a hung jury, but I could understand being worried that if he put it too short and there was any kind of hung jury or anything, the first thing people would have said was, "Why didn't you do all of this in closing?"
Mm.
Now we all are afflicted with ADHD, so we're like, "Could this possibly be an email?"
Could it be?
With bullet points.
Well, and I'm looking. So, I was trying to look because the verdict, there's so many blank spots in there where they muted, and I don't know why they muted it. I guess there's a reason for that I'm not going to do the verdict on this, because we know what the verdict is. Verdict is basically they found him guilty of all charges. None were done. There are victim impact statements. I think doing the victim impact statements, we could easily do tomorrow. It's about not tomorrow, but Wednesday. Is that whenever we talked about doing?
Yeah, Wednesday. I'm trying to remember. We had a talk.
We
And then
talked about something, and yeah. So Wednesday, and I know that we probably are might be ending early, but Wednesday we can probably watch that, and it will be the victim impact statements, which is about 31 minutes, and then the sentencing portion of it, which is, and I'm looking at it to see, because I want to be sure that we don't like end up running too long. For the sentencing is 24 minutes, which I'm sure that we'll pause it through there.
Oh, yeah.
But that should give us just enough time to get through both of those. Well, maybe some of them depends on the situation. Well, no, but I think that, that, this is something that I really wanted to see, and it wasn't because I wanted to see all of the it was more I wanted to see what the prosecution and the defense and how they were operating between the 2, because this wasn't a trial that I watched. Like I said, I was touring at the time. And same way with OJ, like, everyone says OJ, the world stopped whenever OJ was I literally I would catch, like, snippets of it, and I couldn't have told you who anyone was outside of OJ Simpson. Like, people were, "Oh, Johnny Cochran, Judge Ito," whatever. I was like, I don't know. I wasn't paying any attention to it. I had a I had a I had to put food on the table.
What, you mean you had to touch grass before it was a thing? You were just adulting before it was a word?
Yeah, yeah.
How?
Well, and there was a couple of TV shows that I never had seen up until maybe, like, within, like, the past 10 years. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Now I think I understand it a little bit." One of those was Seinfeld. The
I
other
I
one was
hate
Friends.
Seinfeld. I hate Seinfeld, but that's because it was always on right before The Simpsons, and I just didn't think Jerry Seinfeld dined like this, and he's always whining and bitching. And at the point I was a child, I thought an adult meant you got to be your own boss and tell, everyone to screw you and I'll do what I want. So I didn't have a very good concept of what adulting would be, and now my life is basically, what is the deal with the airplane? Like, I've turned into Jerry Seinfeld, but at the time I was introduced to him, he was CBing Simpsons. He was always on before The Simpsons, and it was like, "Oh my god, I don't care about the soup. I just would like to get to The Simpsons."
Well, and the only reason I knew that Friends was a thing is one day I was going to meet up with the rest of the band because we were gonna go to band practice. One time at band practice, we were all meeting up before we went to the studio to practice. And so I show up and I joke knock everyone's TV as I'm walking up because they were in a courtyard and all these like apartments, but they're like bigger than they're not condos, they're not townhomes, they're just big and they have big windows there. And every single TV, they're watching the same exact thing. It was sort of like Twilight Zone kind of thing where you see something that on everyone's screen and all of their individuals, it's all playing the exact same thing. And I was like, this is really weird. And I show up, and of course, the guitar player, I was like, what in the hell did something happen? Like, I'm thinking, that maybe some tragedy happened, like, I don't know, another space shuttle or something like that crashed. Who knows? And they were watching something really interesting, like newsworthy. And he goes, oh, he goes, they're watching Friends. I was like, Friends, okay. I've never heard anything about this. He goes, don't worry, they'll watch this and then they'll all go to the bar afterwards, and that's all they'll be talking about all night is what they watched. I was like, people do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I didn't it was okay funny, but it amused a 9-year-old Mo, which in
Yeah.
retrospect wasn't that hard.
Ah,
But trying to watch it now, all I'm like is like, how are they affording this apartment? None of them go to work ever. They're always just sitting in that coffee shop, just bitching to each other about like their jobs, which they never go to.
it's like, you gotta go to your job. It was like
I
Cheers.
mean,
I couldn't understand, and
what
I
does
understood
Phoebe
stand.
do? Phoebe like sells one cat jingle like a millennia, and somehow she's still living in New York. Like, I don't get it.
Rich parents, I don't know, like, I mean, I understood Joey was like an actor or something like that, or, trying to be an actor.
Yeah, I mean, of course, you're
Wa
talking to
wasn't one of them
about
a proctologist, or they like to go to the
a
proctologist?
paleontologist, I thought.
Okay,
I could
I
be
don't
wrong. I mean, you're talking to the child that for years thought the song was Secret Asian Man. So
Oh, it's
around
not?
12, well, around 12, I plucked up the courage because it had finally, like, I was just done being confused because I
Why
thought,
why is
well,
he
I thought
why
that
is he
even if
secret?
he'd been adopted, because my mind had come up with all these various scenarios
Oh,
about how he wouldn't know he was Asian. And I was like, okay, even if he was adopted, does he not have access to a mirror, like, or cable?
does he not know the difference?
So I finally asked my mom how he could not know that he was Asian, and she's like, "It's secret agent." And it was like, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Now, see, I grew up watching, like, Get Smart, those were that was the kind of stuff I was like, "Why is he so stupid if he's trying to get smart?" Didn't
No,
understand.
I was over here legitimately for my entire life, so 12 years, trying to figure out how this man couldn't possibly find out in the course of his life that he was Asian.
Well, and what scared the hell out of me is a real young kid because, you're talking about something that is reruns by the time that I'm seeing it in the '70s as a young kid was Star Trek. It scared the ever living crap out of me. Like, I would have nightmares about it. Like, and looking back now, I'm like, "Why was I even scared of this?" Like, it wasn't there's nothing scary about it. I mean, he's getting laid everywhere he goes. Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the legend still terrifies me. I don't know if it's a young Tom Cruise, uh, the Vaseline kinda smeared camera and the really, really massive depiction of the devil, but all of that terrified me as a kid.
J.K. Black says, "You strike me as someone who grew up watching Get Smart." Yeah. Yeah. It didn't take, did it? No, didn't take.
Well, we try.
No, we do try. But, yeah, like I said, but with this whole Dahmer thing, I sort of am anxious for it to be over, so that's why I'm like, it was something that I was probably more interested than Mo in watching because I was just like, I
No,
had
I like getting away, and this does actually, because what's interesting about watching these older trials is how some of the things that we inadvertently look at do link into trials and things that are still going on and very relevant today. I
true.
mean, the battle of the experts is something that we're seeing playing out right now in the Clancy trial, but we
Yeah.
see it, to a lesser extent in every trial. And I think we're going to see it play out again in the Tyler Robinson trial.
Yeah, and there's so many other trials that are coming up too. It's not
Oh
just this
yeah.
one. I mean, we've got I was sort of disappointed that the Clancy trial, she just, the Clooney trial that she just admitted guilt. I was like, "Damn it. Damn it. How dare you?" That was gonna be the one to watch, I was looking forward to it.
I was wanting to see how the defense was going to make a steak knife a projectile, because there are certain knives that you throw, but they are perfectly weighted. There's
Right.
and they're not serrated steak knives.
Yeah, and I think we have serrated steak knife. I mean, they're I think my wife got them in college. I think they're Ginsus or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I'm just like, "Okay." I'll explain that a little bit later on here, but she's got these kni and the handles are so heavy on those that if you throw them at somebody, more than likely, it's going to flip completely around and you'll just hit them really hard with a handle, and it's gonna hurt more than anything.
Well, yeah, and it doesn't make sense that, again, is it probably better for the victim's family that she pled? Because I can't imagine, given how she was already trying to say that he was the bad guy, what they would have brought out as a because that is the big problem in these kind of he said, she said cases that the victim is no longer there to talk. And we
Right.
saw that in the Sarah Boone case. I mean, she tried everything. And look, Jorge wasn't a saint, but he wasn't the monster she painted him to be.
No. And he was abusive, but they were just mutually abusive to one another. It was just
I
a
mean,
matter of time
honestly, it
before
was
one of
like
them
an
got
Amber
hurt.
Heard, Johnny Depp thing where they're
Yeah.
both just toxic together. It was bad on both of their parts, but he was not the monster she made him out to be.
Well, no, she was pretty bad. I mean, the reason why the husband and her got divorced is because she was going to the bar and bringing guys back to their house and sleeping with them.
While their son was there, I mean, to the
Yeah.
point that if you break down his testimony and just the body cam footage, she was not a nice person. She was abusive to Brian as well.
Yeah.
So it is interesting how much things change, fashion, technology, although the audio is better in the Dahmer case than it is in the Clancy case, so go figure. But as much as things change, we are still basically arguing the same arguments.
Yeah. It doesn't the arguments don't change. The law doesn't change. The justice system slightly changes and the laws do try to meet with the times. I think laws tend to be about 10 years behind, where everybody else is at mentally, because it takes a while to
Yeah.
get things passed through, which is sort of a good thing. Is in a way, it's a good thing on some aspects that it does move slow like that. Um, and the reason I
Yeah.
say that is because you don't want to jump the gun. You don't wanna, throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Well, we see it a lot with these big political things. We'll have, like Ashley's Law, and sometimes these are really functional, good things, but sometimes they're just restating murder is bad.
Yeah.
So the law is supposed to be slow because it's not supposed to be governed by passion. It's supposed to be very methodical, very logical. It's not supposed to be governed by our emotions.
Which is bad in a sense because you've got something that's governed by logic dealing with people that don't use it.
Yeah, and that is the hard part. That is but how else are we gonna make sense of the world?
I don't know the neutron bomb. I don't know.
Well, I'm not ready to go full black pilled today, Shizzy. I mean, maybe
Well,
tomorrow.
I mean, the good part about the neutron bomb is it gets rid of all like organic matter, but keeps the buildings intact. So yeah, that's to look forward to.
Fallout,
So
the
no, there's not
prequel
really any
with
fallout. It's just organic matter just goes. It's gone.
I've always thought that the octopus octopus and cockroach when they mated and created our species that take over.
What was it? Sunday? I think it was Sunday or Saturday. It was Saturday. I sat down with my wife and watched a movie that I had seen it just didn't really draw my interest because it looked like it was one of those dramas or something. I couldn't really tell what it was. It was called Bright Creatures.
Ooh.
It's on Netflix, I believe.
Oh,
And
is that about the New Zealand case?
no, no,
Oh.
no. No, it's actually more like a drama kind of thing. Not really a drama. It's one of those feel good movies.
Oh, then this would not be what I was thinking
No,
about because that
no,
wasn't a
no.
feel-good movie.
Well, and that's what I was thinking this initially was because you'll see it. There's like an aquarium and there's a cleaning lady that's
Oh,
cleaning the
with
aquarium.
Sally Field.
Yes. Yeah. It's really good. I recommend everybody go watch it. You'll enjoy it. Let's put it that way. You'll enjoy it. It's primo. If you haven't seen it and you have Netflix, or any other streaming thing, I would definitely highly suggest it. If you're into a good movie, just like a good movie, no like weird stuff going on. There's no like serial killers or anything like that. So, which I know just turns Mo off. She's like, well, what
I
fun
know,
is it
and
then?
I know, and Sally Field isn't shirtless, which, usually my leading person is usually topless if I'm gonna watch a movie, uh, which would be kind of weird with Sally Field. It's more
At
of a
her
Jason
age, yeah.
Momoa, Statham kinda thing, but, I am
Well,
an equal opportunity person.
well, whenever she was younger, with Burt Reynolds, I mean, she could have been shirtless. That would have been
I mean,
enjoyable,
true.
you know.
I'd have picked Lonnie Anderson too, though, if I'm honest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? Project Hail Mary is awesome. Yeah,
It is
yeah.
good.
Actually, Project Hail Mary is really good.
It made
Yeah.
me forgive Ryan Gosling almost completely for The Notebook.
Yes, yes. No, Project Hail Mary was really good. I enjoyed that. We watched that, I think, last weekend, or not this past weekend, but the weekend before. I try to actually catch like one decent movie with my wife a week, just because I'm always online. It seems like that. I'm trying to be a better husband, a little bit better.
Same, me too.
Not like micro being better, but a little better than that.
Oh, Lord. Mr. Mo came up from working out and he's like, "Notice anything?" And I was just like, "Don't say not your gym peen. Don't say not your gym peen." And what did my brain say? I was like, "Well, your clothes, so not your gym peen." This is
That
romance in the Mo household.
Well, that's whenever you get up and like shake it for him. Say we gotta get the blood flowing back there for you. Come
And I
on.
was like, "I'll give him 15 minutes to recover." And he's like, "I can't even with you."
I can't
And I
even
was like, "At least I'm acknowledging that there might be an issue and I'm giving."
I'm giving you an out. I'm giving you an out.
He's like, "Well, at least I'm not gonna call the nurse practitioner to ask what happened."
Guys, I'll see you in the morning, and I'll be sending you over to Mo in the morning. You guys have a
Woohoo!
wonderful evening, and I'm sending you guys over to Tug. Peace.
Peace.